Steve, you're back from.
Back like I was never gone before.
I don't know. I mean, we're back, but you're back from your little trip. What would you call your experience to Notre Dame last week?
Yeah. I was working remotely last week, which was great, and also got the benefits of an experience out of it. So yes,
Okay.
yeah, trip.
Which song is he? Long day. Is that one?
That's one of them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Proud of me on that one. It's a country.
I'm very
Thank you.
good. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Name of this podcast: Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
Steve. We got a couple things to catch up on. Got a couple things to discuss. First and foremost, we are joined by Penn State football student offensive assistant Chrissy Cobbs, who is also working or a student of Steve's, which is for a great conversation about her life as a student coach and all of those things and how she kind of developed into that. I think it's a great conversation. Really loved her energy. Take a listen to that. But then we will have the long-awaited, much-debated reveal. Already starting his drum roll. Thank you. Of the 2026 Penn State Sports Hall of Fame class. So I think
Like a year.
we've now turned it into. We can now say it's an annual class, right? Like we've done it
We
twice.
do. It's the second annual. Exactly
Proud
right.
of us. I am proud of us.
Proud of the people who made it possible.
Yes, that mainly that. And then we have a couple of little NIL tidbits that we need to discuss. There's that, and then you have a review of the Notre Dame experience that is old guy, young guy. Correct? We're gonna go with that.
Sure. I don't know if it's a review or just comments, but we'll go with that. Sure.
Right. We're really on it for an important podcast this week, but ahead of the blue white game, folks. So
All kinds of good stuff here.
Yeah. Take a listen to our interview with Chrissy, and we'll be back after this. Steve, she has already said that you're a great professor, and I don't believe that is true. I'm just kidding. I think you're probably a great professor. Am I right?
We'll lean into that. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go with that. Our guest today is Penn State senior Chrissy Cobbs. Why she is here of all weeks? She has one of the more unique titles in all of Penn State football. She is an offensive student assistant. And I have a bunch of other questions about all of the other things she does. First off, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate Steve Samswell as a professor, Chrissy?
I'd say I gotta go 8 just because.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer. Don't give him a 10. Good answer.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the because of. Wait, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you call out a couple students because of some of their things with their moms, jokes about moms and stuff. But
Okay, fair.
but like that I love the jokes. I'm there for the jokes. I don't know if they love them. It hasn't been anything with my mom, so I can't complain.
I love this.
You're not the one who said you didn't want to go home and see your mom. I'm just saying.
It wasn't me. Like I said, I had nothing to do with it. But I'm sure they probably felt some type of way about it.
That's a fair criticism.
Chrissy, it's I think it's fair to say that Penn State is in your quite literal DNA. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, I was born bleeding blue and white, so yeah.
Your dad, Duffy, was on the 82 and 86 national championship teams. When it came time for colleges, was there any other choice for you?
You guys are gonna laugh at this, but it was between this and Pitt, which is crazy because my dad grew up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Pittsburgh. So he kind of was always a Pitt fan, and then obviously came here, hated Pitt. Because they played Pitt every year he was here. And then growing up, I was a huge Penn State fan, but when it came to deciding, which school I wanted to go to, Pitt was giving me a good amount of money. I wasn't sure how much Penn State was going to give me yet, scholarship wise, because being out of state, I'm from Northern Virginia. I wasn't sure if I was able to come to Penn State if I wasn't getting a scholarship. So came down to here in Pitt, and I went, visited Pitt, loved the facilities. That was my first visit, though. So I hadn't seen like Penn State's communications facilities yet and stuff. So when I went to Pitt, I had an insider from the football team kind of take me around, and they were like, "We'll make sure you get a job with the football team when you get here." So that was, the standard to me at that point. And then when I came here and visited Penn State, and then I found out that they were giving me a little bit of money, scholarship, I was like, oh yeah, this is home. So it worked out.
I read that you thought about joining the Collegian. You're talking to two Collegian alums here. We won't hold that against you, but you veered towards the football program. Why was working for the football program something you wanted to do, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, so I actually came in my freshman year working with the football team, which is rare because they don't allow freshmen to work with the football team in any capacity, really. So I had a connection with Terry Smith, and Coach Smith was like, "Oh, I really wanted to start on the field because that's kind of what I was doing in high school, kind of a student assistant role there too. Didn't really care if it was offense, defense, just wanted to be involved on the field." And Coach Smith was like, "Well, we've never had women in that role, in those roles, so you might kind of have to start in recruiting." And I was like, you know what? Whatever is going to get my foot in the door, like I'm down. Let's do it. So started in recruiting. And at the time, since I wasn't super involved with Penn State football, I actually ended up working with the Collegian for about a year and wrote stories for field hockey and women's basketball. And then anywhere else they needed somebody to, substitute in any sport. But did that, and it was different. I honestly wasn't my favorite thing in the world just because, like I said, I wanted to be involved on the field and got to, know a lot of people around the facility, a lot of personnel, staff members, ops, coaches. And after a while of like, talking to people and talking ball, and it got to the point where like I was sitting in there with some of our personnel staff, like for example, Alan Zamitis. I would sit in his office and we would just watch ball for hours. And him and I would just kind of talk through it. And it got to the point where I was kind of leading him through, what was going on with whatever we were watching, whether it was, recruits, practice film, or just PFF, like transfer portal, whatever it may be. And he was at that point, he was like, okay, I think it's time. Like, you need to take that next step.
So is you want to be on the field? You want to be on the field career wise?
So it's actually crazy. That's not like my end goal. The end goal would be to get into like a booth and do like on-air analyst work. But, getting the start on the field, making sure I know all the X's and O's and all types of things that wouldn't allow somebody to say, hey, she doesn't know enough to be an analyst. Like if I get all this coaching experience or personnel, whatever it may be now, it then can excel me to the point where it's like, you usually have players and coaches as analysts, like former players and coaches. And, I can reach that point where they're like, hey, she used to coach, she used to be a student assistant. Like, we're more than willing to put her on air because we know she knows what she's talking about. That's my end goal, kind of to be, because my major is broadcast journalism. So to be on TV and be an analyst. But I have no problem being on the field now while I'm young and active. I love it, interacting with the players, all that kind of stuff. So it's been fun.
Was the what does she know battle tougher in high school or tougher here so far?
Definitely tougher here because high school, my dad was coaching my high school football team. So it's like, okay, he knows what I know. You know what I mean? He's taught me everything I know. So if anybody knows, it's him. So yeah, when I got here, obviously he wasn't here to kind of, tell anybody what I know or what I can do. I kind of had to show that, which was fine. I was more than, willing to do that. But like I said, like they wouldn't even allow me to do any on the field stuff at first. So I really had to prove that, hey, I belong in that space.
What was the
We have this
moment?
fictitious. I'm sorry. Let me ask about our fictitious couple first. We have this fictitious couple that sits on the west side of the stands from York, Pennsylvania. I forget their names.
Bill and
Like,
Linda.
they're old and that when they see you on the side of the field and they're like wondering what do you do? What would you tell them you do during a game?
So last year, at least in game, I was one of the people that would wear the colors. So I was a signaler. I usually was green. Sometimes I switched depending on who we were playing. I wore orange sometimes as well, but I'm signaling the plays into the offense. So like Drew, the first thing he does when the play's over is look over. His eyes are on me, trying to figure out if we're gonna signal the play in or if at the time Andy Kolnicki was gonna say the play into his headset because they have the headset communication stuff now. So It was either that, or if we're running like a tempo play, it was, oh, let me get my eyes over at the sideline. All the players, whether if it was, wide receivers, running backs, whoever, they had to look over at us, see what the tempo is, and then obviously get on the line, snap the ball. But that was like main in-game task for me. But like pregame, I mean, it varied. I usually you would see me next to Drew or Grunk, whoever at the time, catching the ball. So I was their hands pregame, making sure that they're not catching the ball. And then I would also like kind of shag balls, help them run plays. I had to throw sometimes to some of the wide receivers. It varied. It just depended on the day and whoever needed help. But I'm all over the place. But main thing would probably be signaling, and I work with the quarterback. So anytime we're not on the field, you'll probably see me on the bench talking to the quarterback's coach, giving him like certain coverages that I'm seeing, or talking to some of the backups and talking about what they see, because we're all kind of together. Like when they show the sideline, and you'll see like Drew and all the quarterbacks, and then the quarterbacks coaches, and we're all right there kind of around, huddling around the iPad trying to figure out what we just saw.
You're a student just like the players are. How does that help with rapport and trust?
Yeah, so it's been huge, I think, because they realize like, hey, she's just like us. She has to go through the same kind of things, because coaches kind of sit around all day and they're able to game plan, and they're able to bring any players in that need help with anything for meetings, all that kind of stuff. And it's like with me, I can't always sit down and meet with you because I have classes and like other responsibilities and stuff, and they understand that. And so then feels like our relationship is more of like, okay, she's somebody that is my friend, but also I can go to her to ask her about, a specific play call or formation or whatever it may be, because I know she studies the plays just like I do. Like if we're in class, great. And I have class with some of them, and I'm not always doing class work. I'll sometimes have my computer open looking at, formations or plays or whatever. I know Steve's come over behind my back.
Doled out an 8 for me out of 10 because you're not paying attention. Nice. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Listen, it happens. He's caught me a few times. But I try my best to stay on track with school stuff. And then also make sure that I've got everything down for football, so players and coaches, whoever, can come to me with any questions.
You mentioned studying the playbook, and you mentioned studying for school. What was that balance process like for you?
So it was really tough at first. My first spring working with the football team, just because the lingo is so much different than I was used to in high school, it was just a lot. And it was hard for me to pick up and understand exactly what was going on. So I was spending a lot of time just, looking visually at the plays, and then like reading the play call, then looking up at my screen and actually watching the play, and then going back and forth and like understanding what each part of the play call meant, because our play calls were pretty long. So it was important to kind of know, because as a quarterback, you have to know everything that's going on the field. So if I'm trying to help them, obviously I have to know everything as well. So that made it a lot tougher. And jumping into, I think, quarterback in college is tough. It's super hard, especially when you're trying to balance a bunch of things. So I found myself a lot of nights not sleeping, going to bed pretty late, and then just not getting good sleep because I'm stressed, because I was worried about, oh, I got to get this stuff down. Even though it was spring ball, which usually isn't as chaotic, not as stressful. Like if you don't understand something, it's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, like I was new and I wanted to prove myself. So it was like, okay, I got to get this stuff down. Plus, I got to maintain, my good grades or whatever it may be. Make sure I'm going to class, all that kind of stuff. So I found myself like drinking a lot of energy drinks and coffee and all that kind of stuff. But I will say, once that was over and then summer came around, spent a lot of time with the quarterbacks coaches and some other student assistants at the time. And we went over everything, and I didn't have any other responsibilities, so it made it a lot easier. And by then it was smooth sailing. I didn't have any issues like schoolwork. I'd go to school, do my homework right after typically, and then focus on, pre-practice responsibilities at that point, and then whatever I may need to do for practice.
You mentioned being the quarterback's hands and sometimes throwing. Are you a better catcher or thrower?
I'd say catcher. Before this season, though, I probably would have said thrower, just because I played softball and I've been throwing objects my whole life. So I grew up throwing a football, and I actually can throw it really well, just can't throw it too far. Probably like 30 yards max. But after this season, having to catch so much through all types of conditions, I mean, like pinstripe ball, hands are frozen, and I'm catching during TV timeouts and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I shocked myself because I didn't know my hands were that good. But I did grow up in a household with a wide receiver. So he was known for his great hands. So I guess that rubbed off on me a little bit.
What will this week look like for you? What does Blue White Week? Is it any different, or is it just another week of spring practice for you?
Yeah, so it'll just be just like another week, another practice. We actually were talking about that today in our team meeting. Like Saturday for us is gonna be pretty standard, other than like obviously it's at the stadium rather than at our facilities and stuff. But like we're still going through the same protocols, meetings, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll just head over to the stadium. But practices and like preparation will be the same. I still have the same responsibilities. I do a lot of like the quarterback stats and stuff. So Thursday practices are a little more chill, and we don't do as many like team periods. So Thursdays I don't really have to do as much. But I think it'll be more chaotic for the players than myself, because they kind of have to lock in a little bit more this week, especially with, I know Saturday they've got an autograph session and just like a lot more going on. So they got to make sure that they stay locked in, and they're able to perform their best, because at the end of the day, like this is all a test for them, and it's an opportunity to see, if they can be trusted, especially with our new staff and everything. So, I think it's pretty smooth sailing for me for the most part, and more on them.
You mentioned the new staff, and you mentioned Terry Smith, and you are kind of one of a few people that came from the James Franklin era and are now part of the Matt Campbell era. What has the welcoming process on both sides? What is it like kind of learning and understanding Matt Campbell, and what has kind of Matt Campbell and his crew embracing Penn State felt like and been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. I've been pretty pleased with Coach Campbell and his new staff. I think they've done everything the right way so far. They're really trying to embrace the letterman and alumni of Penn State football. And each week of spring ball, they brought back like a new decade. So it's been pretty cool to see them like reaching out to all the different lettermen and having those guys come back and talk to the team. I enjoy those stories. I know if I'm enjoying it, like the guys really are, because they're helping them. Like they'll take them out of the team meeting room and then meet with them after practice and watch film and all that kind of stuff. And that's with ex NFL players and ex All Americans and everything. So that's a pretty cool experience. But this staff, they've been great. They've embraced us, the people who have been here through the Franklin era, and then they brought their new people in, and we're all kind of creating chemistry right now. So it's been a lot of fun.
Was there any doubt? You talked about proving yourself in the first time around. Was there ever any doubt in your mind that you'd still be doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah, man, I was afraid when Franklin first got fired. That was one of my biggest worries. And honestly, it didn't have to be because I'm graduating this spring, but it's just the fact that I love being around ball no matter, what's going on. And I knew I still kind of wanted to help out. So when Coach Campbell first got hired, I think my biggest doubt was, will he retain anybody? Because at the time I knew, well, if he does retain some of our coaches, at least maybe they can put in a good word for me, and then, you know, he'll allow me to stay around, or maybe he'll meet with me and, see what I know, all that kind of stuff. So that ended up happening. And at the time it was Trace McSorley. And so I reached out to him And I was like, hey man, just want to make sure I'm still able to come around and everything. Have you talked to the new staff about what they're trying to do with student assistants? Because some schools don't do student assistants, they only do like GAs, or quality control type of thing. And he was like, oh, we're gonna have a meeting about that. You should be good, Dom, and make sure that I tell them about you and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up working out. And then when I first came back, I Campbell actually asked to meet with me, so I got a one-on-one with him, and it was amazing. So like I said, I've been pretty pleased.
What did you learn about life during the transition?
Oh man. So there was a ton of adversity, obviously. And I feel like I kind of learned, well, like when there's a roadblock, you may have to like veer and come back and get on your right path, or you may have to, take a couple steps back to take a couple steps forward again. But it'll all work out, and if you trust the process and continue to grind, like, everything happens for a reason. Because at the time I couldn't process the fact that, like, man, why is this happening? Because like the Northwestern game was so tough for me, just because as soon as the clock hit 0, it just kind of all hit me. And I was like, man, there's no way. Like, I just had a bad feeling. I was like, this is it. They're either gonna fire Coach K, or, Coach Knowles, like somebody's getting fired. And I just thought, I was like, this staff will never, be the same. And these guys, I think this is the end. And so after that, it was kind of like, man, why is this happening to us? Why is our season going like this? Because obviously we had high expectations. And so when it all kind of started to fall apart, it was like, all right, how can we get back on track? And for me, I'm somebody who's always like super energized and super positive. So I was like, okay, the best thing I can do at this point is, bring the same energy around the players in meetings, bring the same energy out at practice and wherever I can, so that, they know, hey, we still got, 6 games left. We still got to bring the juice, and we still have an opportunity to maybe make it to a bowl game. And not only are we playing for that, but at this point you're playing for yourself and each other. And so I wanted to make sure that, guys still had the opportunity to, if they wanted to transfer, they could, if they had good film. And so that was important. Or if they wanted to then, go to the NFL, they could. But it was about like maximizing the rest of the opportunities we had. So for me, it was like being the energy, being, positive, coming, acting as I was before the firing ever happened, being that same person even after all of that, so that the guys have like an outlet.
Guessing you're confident about your skill set and the experience you've had. What makes you good at what you do, and what do you think is some of the most valuable traits you have for whatever the next step is?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I'd probably say positivity for sure. Because, I may not know everything, but I will always bring the energy, and I'll do everything that I can at 110%. Um, so that's huge. And then I'd also say, once I'm given information, I usually try to be a sponge, and I study my butt off. So, like with this new offense, learning this new offense, that was also something that I was kind of worried about, because it's like, okay, I've been with the same offense since I started. And now it's like, okay, you're learning a whole new offense with new personnel, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, a lot of the lingo will be different, maybe a lot of the same concepts and stuff and formations, but the language is completely different. So being able, especially at this point in my career, like being able to like retain all that information, and have those conversations with the coaches about things that I don't understand, has been pretty pivotal, because, I'm at the end of, my career at Penn State, and I'm about to graduate. And so if, depending on what opportunities present themselves next, I might have to learn a new offense, or I might have to learn, something else, what defense, offense, whatever it may be. So, having that opportunity at this point in my career has been pretty cool. And I feel like I've, taken the information in pretty well.
I'm guessing at this point in your career, you've watched hundreds of hours of film. Is that
A
fair?
lot. Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever seen any film of Duffy Cobbs? And could you give me a scouting report on him?
Well, I've seen a good as much as I can because the TV copies are not as good as they are now. But yeah, I mean he's a smaller corner, smaller guy, pretty physical, super fast, super quick, and twitchy. And so it's pretty cool because I show his film to some of my younger cornerback friends on the team right now. And it's funny because they had the large shoulder pads and stuff. And it's like they look a lot slower than they actually are because they've got all these huge pads and stuff on. But he's somebody who's a ball hawk. He was gonna go get the ball if it was anywhere near him. It was either a deflected pass or an interception. But yeah, I love showing the guys his film and they laugh. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's funny because the shoulder pads are big and the film sucks, but he was a dog.
Well, then naturally, my follow up is Terry Smith versus your dad. Who's winning in that 1-on-1? You can plead the fifth if you want to, but
I'm not pleading the fifth. I gotta stick with my pops on this one. I
Okay.
gotta go dad. Terry was a dog too, but I know my dad's technique and skill set, and I think he's got the upper hand.
Awesome. We have one question before we go. What is your go-to creamery ice cream flavor?
Ooh, this is a great question. I love this question. I'm always a Peachy Paterno person. I've been that since I first started coming up to Penn State. So love Peachy Paterno.
Good answer. Good answer. Chrissy Cobbs, not sure what's next for you, but thank you for joining us. This was great.
I know what's
I
next. She has
appreciate you guys.
class.
Yeah. One more time, what'd you say?
I said, I know what's next. She has class.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys having me. This has been really fun.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Steve, I really thoroughly enjoyed how much like her head is on her shoulders and how conscious and how wise she came off in that interview. Like particularly her answer about like the adversity and going through the adversity of last season and handling that and how that made her a better person. I thought that was great. And I think that we've had a couple students on the podcast, various forms, mostly journalists. But I think that is we say this every time, I feel like, but that is like the opportunity and making something of the opportunity, even if the situation, I'm sure, was not stressful or good within the Lash building last year, right? And I thought that was above all fascinating and interesting. And I loved her passion for really football, really sports in general, but football. Like you can tell she's from a football family, and it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of great students. She's one of them. Smart, strategic, strong backbone, just thoughtful. I mean, the whole I'm going to go work on the sidelines and I want to do this. And now I've proven myself to 2 staffs and yeah, it's going to be hard and started in high school and self-aware. Hey, with the high school thing, oh yeah, my dad was a coach, right? But dad's got high standards. So you meet those and then you're going to be able to do the next thing. So yeah, really good. And I'm sure she's going to be great at whatever comes next. And then, when we're still doing this podcast in 5 years, we'll have her come back as whatever it is job she's holding down in the NFL or major college football.
I have a feeling, like I legitimately have a feeling that she will be either on a college or NFL sideline, and not just a small college.
Or she'll be in a broadcast booth. I mean, that's the ultimate end game, and she's gone about it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. That was cool. Well, thanks, Chrissy, for joining us, especially in the midst of a relatively kind of busy week, and a busy week for us. I think would be the best way to say that. We have tallied the votes. We got a lot of votes this year again, and it's time to reveal the 2026 Penn State Sports Hall of Fame class. 2026, yeah, best way to say that. A reminder that this is all decided by you, our listeners, viewers, readers, people who accidentally stumble across our website looking for piano instructions. We really
Is
appreciate
that a thing?
it. Yeah, I told you the guy wanted piano lessons. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
I don't know why that guy went. So you can't get mad at us when there are, at least in my opinion, 2 names not on this list that I think, and I think we're on agreement on one of them. So, here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Here's the next 8 members of the Stuff Summer Says Penn State Sports Hall of Fame are who?
In alphabetical order by first name, because we don't have the technology to do it by last name yet. We'll work on that for next year. True friend of the podcast, Mr. Joe Batista. Former Lady Lion great, Kelly Mazzani. Probably the greatest Penn State quarterback of all time, Mr. Kerry Collins. One of the great running backs of all time, Kajana Carter. My go-to greatest of all time Penn State athlete, Micah Hancock. Paul Puslesny, Taylor Battle, and Mr. Wally Triplett. Steve, I think that's a pretty good class, right?
It's a very good class of 8 people.
Okay.
It's a great class. Combined with the previous class, it's nobody else is doing this. It's a great class, and thank you for the nearly 200 people or so that cast a vote. More than 200, I guess. Yeah, it's a good group.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the whole thing in context, and you say there's a Penn State Sports Hall of Fame, and you scroll down the list and you say, oh, there's Shane Conlon on the outside looking in. That might be interesting to some people, and there's probably other people that are on the outside looking in. But this is really cool, so it's a good 8.
Shane Conlon was the name that I thought was a sure ballot Hall of Famer the second time around. Guess you decided not to make it that way, people. And the other name that you will have to apologize to her again.
I'm going to apologize to Susan Robinson at church again this year. Yeah, I mean, the best women's basketball player of her era, the best one in the nation, according to many people, didn't make the cut. But we're talking about, just over 24 people through all the varsity sports at Penn State through all time in this Hall of Fame. So there's no Black Sox scandal why the people aren't in. It's just people didn't vote. So we're back next year. So this is great.
So you're still on the ballot, Susan. At least we haven't removed you from the ballot,
No, nobody falls off the ballot.
Falls off. The ballot is never good. I think this was I think this is a good class for we had a lot of covering of history to do. I think we still have a lot of covering of history to do of names, particularly before 1970, right? But I think we have a good, at least of the millennial generation. This is probably it. This is probably the list of definitive Penn State figures or athletes that defined what Penn State athletics is. Yeah. And like I said.
Yeah, as with any Hall of Fame, the conversation of who's not in, who you got to take out to put them in, if that were to have, I mean, it would be a worthwhile discussion.
That's the thing. Every single one of these people, then we got to take that person out for this person, and that's no, I think that's a fair thing.
No, thanks to everybody who voted. We're continuing to build. It's really cool, and we'll be back again next year with the 3rd annual.
Yeah, so we will. Well, maybe we can get the Susan Robinson. We're sorry for not getting you into the Hall of Fame koozie or something like that.
Maybe we need to get her to guest, and people can.
She can appeal. She can call us out broadly.
Say what the hell's going on here? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's that. It's Blue White Week. I don't really have any thoughts about Blue White game. Not going. Can't go.
Practice.
Sorry, that's right. Not a game. Practice. I feel like, as a reminder, we will do our annual reminder. Maybe we'll put Blue White Bingo back out there again this year. You will learn nothing on Saturday. We would rather you learn tailgating habits to take into the 2026 football season than you will about the habits of the Penn State football team.
That's true. Will you? You're not up, but will you be connected in any way, trying to pay attention? And it's going to be a challenge because there's no TV, there's no radio.
I will. I'm sure I'll log on to the various social media sites to check in there. But I think, again, $2. Charge $2. They're Bill and Linda who can't from York who can't be there, they would pay it. So the dogs are very fired up about this. I don't know why the dogs are so fired up about the fact we're not going to blue-white. Any other thoughts? Blue-white weekend? Like, is there a Samsel tailgate? Like, do you have a game plan?
There'll be a tailgate. I'm sure we'll get an assignment sheet, but it's weather dependent. The grandchildren are going to be in. Basement has lots of room to run where people can stay dry. So if for some reason it looks iffy,
beer is colder there.
Probably not going in anyway, even if we're there. So we'll have big doings the next day because I've got at least 2 of the 4. I don't think they're 2. 2 of the 4 we're gonna try to do the Beaver Stadium walk kind of thing with. So we'll see how that goes.
Is Steve going to run or will
I signed up to run, but I don't think anybody else signed up. So I think it's going to be me walking with the 2 grandsons.
Okay.
And hopefully they aren't like, rabid raccoons not wanting to be in the stroller. They want to like just stay in the stroller and we can kind of walk and jog it as opposed to trying to like dock with 2 arms and kind of get them to where we're going.
See, here's what's going to happen when I publish this episode. I'm going to split me into it, and it's going to be a direct appeal to Danny and Sam to get you to run it against them, even though I know
Sam's leaving. Danny, I think, has a thing. She has a thing. That's why we have the boys. So no, I don't have to lose to either one of them.
All right. So maybe Russ
signed up, paid my money. No EMTs will have to catch me halfway around the track or halfway around the route and find me. We'll just get our T-shirts Friday and walk. We'll get our T-shirts, Friday and walk Sunday. But yeah.
Well, I hope the weather's good for all of that because it was 30 degrees here today after being 90 last week. So there's that. Okay, let's get to the 2 NIL things we've been texting about. Let's go with the story that appeared in the USA Today that has a lot of Penn Staters, including myself, relatively fired up. It is a piece by Matt Hayes. I don't know if this headline has changed since this article was initially published, but I kind of feel like it has. It was called James Franklin didn't. Oh, there's a weird pop-up. Hold on. James Franklin didn't want to let Penn State off the hook financially. Here's what he did. The way the story was presented online, I have 2 issues with that. I think one of the reasons why I enjoy and have really spent a lot of time and energy diving into financial statements because this is the only time that we get to see the financial statements and understand these things. To me, the way the story was presented basically essentially was James Franklin could have taken a $49 million vacation. But here's why he didn't. Here's why he went to Virginia Tech. That was kind of the gist of the headline. That's why I say I don't know that it was edited, but it certainly feels like it was edited. The other data point in there, the big kind of quote unquote news, is that Penn State spent $7 million on NIL in 2024. 2 things, both on those, that are, in my opinion, 1.5 factually wrong. The first and foremost is the missing context of the fact that James Franklin had a clause in his contract that basically was a duty to work clause, meaning that he had to find work to offset the buyout of some shape or fashion. So he could not have taken that $49 million vacation. That was something that came out late in the kind of buyout process after the fact, even after the firing, something that I wrote the piece about. Here's how much it would cost to fire James Franklin, and went back and we edited, and you can see the note on that piece because of that information coming to light. First and foremost, I think that is a failure in the some of the right to know stuff and really just kind of the clarity and lack of clarity around contracts, et cetera, at Penn State. I think that also came back up in the Matt Campbell, which if you go on our website or go on Penn State's website, you can see it in Matt Campbell's contract that there is both the offsetting there's the offsetting language and duty to work language. I think that's an important piece of context that was missing from Matt's story. The other piece that we can kind of debate and why I say it's 1.5, because I'll get to the reason why. Penn State screwed up and basically is the only school in the country, I still have not found another one, I've looked over every single one, to release their 2024-2025 NIL data in their financial revenue report. It's required by the NCAA. Only school in the country that's done that. And to me, or in that report, it says that Penn State spent $13 million. Now, we can debate the semantics of when that money was spent and potentially some of that money being spent in the 2025 portion. So after the school year was over or after the football season was over, but still in that school year, sure. But to me, I think that data point needed to be included and is very interestingly publicly available. Again, might be the only school in the country where it is publicly available. There were some other notes in the piece that felt a little puff piece to me, and I was frustrated by that because I think, again, it was void of the context, particularly around the firing, called the firing a panic firing. And that just felt like very James Franklin written language. All of this is to say, like, these are important pieces of context that I don't want anybody listening to this podcast to forget in this process. Not that I think we've beat these into your head enough, but I think that we've beat these into your head enough to make sure that we know. I do think the aspect around financial clarity, though, I think that would have solved a lot of these problems.
Yeah, I think when you first sent me the headline and I followed it, and then there were a couple other stories that week because it was all leading up to Virginia Tech's spring game. Virginia Tech, James Franklin had a good media week. I mean, until the parachutists got stuck on the scoreboard, they had a good week. They were all the positive stories, all the story from that side of it, right? And that context that made the stories one-sided was missing for the people who most would notice it, and that would be the blue and white contingent in Happy Valley and the blue and white contingent nationally. So I'm sure those stories hit differently for you and I and many other people than what they hit nationally because we knew the rest of the context. We knew that the buyout and the mitigation and whatever else people had lived it. So I thought that was fortuitous, good thing for Virginia Tech and James Franklin. Probably not so good if you look at how things actually really did play out. We have not, and I think I've at times said, hey, there's no sense piling on. It's not all his fault that the world's changed the way it does, and the program is better than when he found it, and he did the right things in many ways. He just couldn't win big games, so we're not going to pile on. But Virginia Tech got good spin from their coach's perspective about how things ended here and about how things may proceed there, which good for them, but perhaps not 100% correct in all facets.
No, I think that's a good way of summing up the issues there. And I think that lack of clarity or whatever not being included was because it was a big piece. That piece landed, and at least in the Penn State sphere, and obviously the algorithms are biased towards Penn State stuff for me, but I do think that was a very well talked about piece nationally. Because there isn't much college football news going on until, like you said, the guy got stuck on the scoreboard.
And he's a huge high profile coach who got fired and has gone someplace else. He's one of the stories of the offseason.
Right.
And good for them, and they got the attention. But I mean, even from the NIL stuff, the news wasn't about what they spent. The spending that mattered wasn't 2024. The spending that mattered was 2025. And he'd made reference to that being all in, and yeah, it was kind of late and whatever else. Okay, but they were all in part because they spent late in 2024 to retain people for 2025. And the athletic director has said we spent whatever it was, almost $30 million on football, right? When in an era when, going back to facts, that the spending was supposed to be $20.5 million for all sports. Now I know the going rate for a football team is probably $40 million these days, but yeah. There was just a little bit of context there missing. I mean, on both sides, I guess, how you look at it. But it certainly jumped out if you were a Penn State fan.
I think that's fair. Okay. Another thing that you texted me this weekend was a screenshot of it's not loading. Will you tee it up? Oh wait, there it is. You sent me a screenshot from former friend of the podcast, Darian and Steve. Ironically, on the same week that James Franklin got fired. Talk about a segue there. He retweeted something. At the Horseshoe, I guess there was some sort of event for, I don't know if there was an Ohio State spring game was last weekend.
It was a spring game.
Okay, was there spring game? Okay. And somebody said, I think it's Adnan Nandori said, at the shoe, concession vendors are offering a roundup to donate option that goes to Ohio State's NIL fund, to which you said for Monday as a topic. So what? Give
Oh
it to
my
me.
gosh. I think I was sitting down when I saw that, and I don't know that I fell over or broke out in hives, but good. You round up to donate at the grocery store for the food bank. You round up to donate someplace else for another nonprofit. If we've gotten to the place where they're rounding up to donate for the football team and the basketball team, and I know we're there, but man, that just feels icky. And that's the nice word, like unnecessary. I don't know.
Okay, a couple
Would
things.
you round up if it
Whoa.
would you round up if it was at Penn State?
So, couple things. Number one, I am not rounding up at Penn State, but I am being charged a 5% legacy fund.
Fair.
So there's that.
Fair,
And,
so I
I,
suppose
and
that's how you
that
get
that
it.
one is honestly more annoying. Now, this is somebody that does donate to NIL. But that one is more annoying because I can't opt out of that one. I can't say no to
Okay,
that
that's
one.
fair.
There's that. The other thing is, I believe I have to look. I feel like Happy Valley United has gone 16 different directions since we tried to do the Roar Plus thing, and I don't know how that's going. I believe this is a thing you can do with like Penn State. Like, there's a way you can do this with like Happy Valley United in my bank account. It's like what's that Acorns app? That you can like if you round up to the nearest dollar, and then you can either donate some of it or you can invest that as a stock or something like that. So like if you spent $3.50, you've actually spent $4, but that 50 cents goes towards stocks. I think you can do that with Penn State. All of that is to say, I would prefer that it would either we not do that. I applaud people for being creative and clever, but it feels a little I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it just feels a little like in the face of actual charities that benefit from when you do that.
Well, it actually mixing the previous topic about James Franklin and talking about money spent, and approaches. I mean, one of the things that came out of that, I think it was that article, or maybe it was another one, because there were a couple breathlessly happy Virginia Tech pieces leading into that game last week, was about Penn State's initial NIL efforts, which we're going to educate students, right? We're going to teach them how to be productive, how to build a brand, how to do whatever, as opposed to just straight up asking for money and trying to raise money, which, to his point, put Penn State behind. So, I mean, there is that part for Ohio State and anybody else who does it. This is what we're doing. We got to raise money. We got to compete. We got to win. This is how we do it. So, as a matter of fact, it works that way. So, and it has worked for them. So maybe, I guess I could be wrong about it all.
So if somebody goes and buys a chicken basket this weekend and they are asked to round up at the stadium, let us know. Because clearly it's at least coming. I don't know, man. That's just
the legacy fund's a good point. Like that's a good. It's on how you go about doing it, right? So, and everybody knows they have to do it. They have to find every ounce and dollar of revenue to support athletes in the NIL era. So, at least they're being straightforward about it. This is what it's for. They're not hiding it. They're not saying it's a charity and then they're not. So this is better than that. So, better than making up the Garnet and Gold Fund for whatever scholarships, and it's actually just named that to go to NIL. So,
yeah, sure.
Transparency is a good thing that way.
All right. How was you texted me then from the concert or at some point this weekend and said we need to talk about how the game day experience at Notre Dame is better for anything, including a concert. Explain.
Yeah, and it's a money thing, honestly. Notre Dame, and Michigan is the other stadium where I've experienced it. They have enough money, or at least enough money from other resources, that there's nothing else inside the bowl of the stadium. Like there's just not. It is the experience of football, or in the case for me and Susan Saturday night, a Luke Combs concert. So there was nothing else in there except his stage. They have one scoreboard at the one end, and kudos to them. They wanted you to hook up to their university Wi-Fi, try Notre Dame Wi-Fi. So one of Luke Combs' songs, One Number Away. The big text for the QR code is One Number Away, ? Check out the Notre Dame Wi-Fi ND guest, and here's the QR code. Cute, whatever else. They promoted that. They promoted their blue gold game on the scoreboard. Maybe tours on campus and something else, but that was it. And when the concert starts, that's off. There's no other ribbon boards, enough. They wouldn't be on. It's just, again, I know they have more money, but there's nothing over all the portals that are ads. You are there for whatever is happening inside the stadium. and it just feels more, I don't want to say pure, but I know they're making money off of it, but it feels different because of that.
There's been like a trend going around where people are sending or posting pictures of baseball stadiums from like the first year they opened, or like 20 years ago versus now, and you see all of the no ads on the outfield wall, or no ads like really anywhere, and now it's just outfield ads. I think there is something to be said, and I do wonder, as we get more like the pendulum really swung towards capitalism, right? Like it really went that way. Like I kind of wonder if it's going to swing back. And I think a couple of things that are a good example of that. I think the Notre Dame thing is a good example of that. I think people wanting physical tickets again is a good example of little things that when you do that, you actually go the extra mile, right? Like that's like I actually really appreciate that. I think that was kind of one of our gripes with how the parking passes just showed up in a FedEx envelope for Penn State fans, right? And it used to be, here's a nice packet and maybe a magnet of some sort. Thank you for being part of the Nittany Lion Club. And now it's just, now we're not even going to get that. We're going to get the digital only parking passes. I think, to me, like that, there's value in doing those things that enhance or make the experience better, because people notice it, because it's so ubiquitous in our faces now that like it's not the other way around.
It's so funny that you used pendulum for the, because I was going to say the pendulum was the other way before. If you look in the 1940s and 50s at stadiums, there were ads on the outfield walls. There was very much, it was a trend that stopped doing that because they made some money in the 60s and 70s and they didn't need that revenue or didn't know how to make the most of it. And now we're going back to that again because they're looking for ways to make money.
And I think, like, even like, so the Keys are back. They are now a single A team and they're back. And so they got some stadium upgrades, and their ballpark is very cookie cutter. Like the outfield it's just a curved outfield. There's no nooks or crannies, not the way PNC or Medler or Blair County Ballpark is, right? And so, but there's 3 levels of ads, or there were 3 levels of ads. So, but the home run was over the first level of ads. Like there was actually, it's hard to tell, but there was actually a gap in between there. And so, but when they did these upgrades this season, they put a green wall there. Like that first level of ads is just a green wall, and there's a couple ads, but they're not every single thing is an ad. And it was like, wow, this is really refreshing. This is really nice. I think people just, like I said, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, they know. They just know. I mean, I hadn't thought about it. I mean, I knew it, but hadn't thought about it till we were in the bowl. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is different because every portal doesn't have an ad for whatever the company is, and the ribbon board doesn't have an ad for whatever the stuff is. So that you just notice it, and they were just the stuff they did was spot on and necessary and well done. And I think part of it too, that the concert, I saw Combs here briefly, called it work related, just to kind of check out a piece of it before coming home, and he's better at what he does now. So I think that was part of it too. Like the center stage was better than the end zone, and it's a better experience that way too. But they did a good job.
So the stage was in at the 50-yard line, not at the
50-yard line, rotating turntable. So the band was moving and he walked. And one of the better branding things was, and I'm sure they did this at Iowa State because they were there, and Charlottesville because they were there. Stadiums have pennants for the teams or the teams in their conference or whatever. Notre Dame has two flag poles at I guess it's the north end of the stadium. South end is the American flag. North end of the stadium high, 2 pennants. They were branded for the concert.
That's cool.
Like
that's a good touch.
They brought down whatever was there, and they were branded. I'm like, that's just really cool. Like, kudos to the brand people for that everything you see is theirs and it makes sense within the brand of the event. So that was the other thing I took away from it. You're kind of cheating for looking for ideas always. They did good work.
I think that's good. Big news. Other big news of the week. Speaking of the Frederick Keys, they did get a new light system, which includes the dancing lights. And Steve is really excited about those folks. So, can't wait to see these stadium lights, the new stadium lights going up on the stadium renovation at Beaver Stadium. So I can't wait for those to come. And Steve,
You know those suckers are going to dance, right? They're going to have to.
Yeah, and it's going to be great, and you're going to live, and it's going to be fine.
It'll be great. It's just different. I have to learn to deal with change, I guess. Move into the modern era.
I'm gesturing broadly if you are listening to us on the non-YouTube.
First world problem that I'll have to deal with, I know.
Anything else? I feel like we've covered everything today.
Yeah, great guest.
Yeah, great guest. Good podcast, hopefully. Hall of Fame class. So there's that. We'll have a couple things this week. Maybe we will bring back Blue White Bingo. If that was a good hit, maybe we'll refresh that just a touch this year. And then we will also do foldable and phone screen rosters, not depth charts because we don't have that yet. But you take those and print those off and put those in your pocket. We have no clue. To your point, we have no clue what the format's going to be like. We have no clue if there's any scoring at all.
Nothing yet. No, it's early. Maybe by the time this podcast is live, Athletics will have released that information.
Seems like honestly, it seems like the star of the event is the fact that there's an autograph signing with a couple of teams, not just.
I was going to say, I was waiting to say with who was going to be the star in your world.
I was going to say, like, I think you got football in and as of itself. You've got wrestling, and you've got the women's hockey team. It certainly feels like they have made up for or trying to make up for their lack of promotion of Penn State women's hockey.
Oh, and then we had the big auction.
Oh yes, in the auction as well.
9 a.m. Pagula Ice Arena. Line will start forming at probably 7 if you want to get in there and get
stuff.
Your leftover stuff. Not our stuff.
Not our
their
stuff. That will be the next countdown timer. We are not going straight to the
football season. We're going to
we are going to the Adidas.
The Adidas arrival.
Adidas arrival timer on the front page of the book.
Nice. Nobody else will do that for you.
That's it. See, those are the things you can't get. We're free. We're free subscriptions. We don't even offer subscriptions. We just
a free subscription. That's the best kind.
All right. Thanks to Chrissy for joining us. That was a really fun conversation. If and when we do have things on the blog this week, it will be at stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called With
Steve.
5 stars, thumbs up. I've got an email. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
Perfect. Lastly, you can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says. You can find Steve
at Steve Samsel.
So yeah, bye.